Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. I don't know how many of you watched the late show after the Tonight Show, but I thought Seth Meyers maybe had the best idea for fixing the economy last night. He said, this is just amazing. It was reported that Kim Kardashian's cell phone game, Kim Kardashian Hollywood, makes over $700,000 a day. I think it might be time to stop putting her down and start putting her in charge of the economy. That's amazing. $700,000 a day. Kim's got something going on there, right? Can you see Kim Kardashian with a cabinet post? I don't. Probably not going to happen. Anyway, a guy I have a lot of respect for is with us this morning. He's Ned Ryun. He's CEO of Voter Gravity. He's the founder of America Majority. He is a guy who is out there getting people and training candidates and activists around the country to get involved in local government, school district governance, state legislatures. He has worked as a writer for President George W. Bush, the co-founder and former director of Generation Joshua program. And if I keep on going, that'll be the whole segment. And he's also a good friend. Ned, great to have you on the show this morning. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Gary. It's good to be back.
We've not talked for a while, but, when I talk about voter mood in the country, and everybody seems to be trying to make predictions about, upcoming elections in November and two more years after that, you're a guy that probably has your ear to the earth as well as anybody on what the mood is of the electorate in the country. What's going on right now?
I think there's a couple different dynamics, Gary. I think, if people always want to play the 2014, how's it going to turn out game, I think it's going to be good for Republicans, which, quite frankly, I'm actually writing a piece right now that I think Breitbart's going to run next week. But, our winning in 2014 is going to cover over a multitude of sins. I think there's a lot of things that should be being worked on and being done right now if we want to win the White House back in 2016 that simply aren't being done.
What are those things?
Gosh.
Do we have time?
Let me make it very concise. We don't have our own Organizing for America, and by that I mean a full-time presence on the ground in battleground states, training, registering voters in a very, very robust way. Organizing for America, the success Obama had in 2012 was not months in the making, it was years in the making.
Right.
The time and investment and the fusion of human infrastructure and really robust, focused, metric-driven human infrastructure with robust data and technology and blending that together and making it as seamless as possible. I would argue that it's not being done as it should be, and we've got a lot of ground that still needs to be made up. That being said, I think we're going to pick up probably 10, 12 seats in the House, got a real legitimate shot at picking up the majority in the Senate. We'll probably make gains at the state level. So I think it's going to be a good year. It's just one of those things where, I want to win the White House back, and I want to win it back with somebody that is a good, credible conservative.
Is there such a person out there now that you've identified? Because there are a lot of people, and I know you've heard this a million times, that have this mood of it just doesn't matter anymore. We don't trust any of them. And I know we've often heard that over the years. This is not the first time, but it seems more acute right now. Does it seem that way to you?
It does. It's interesting to see, and you and I were exchanging emails on being authentic,
right,
and the voters really seeking an authentic person to get behind, whether it's for Congress or the White House, and how not being authentic is really turning out to really damage people's elections. For example, Eric Cantor here in Virginia. I think people are really looking for somebody on the GOP that is authentic, that actually believes what they say, say what they believe,
right,
actually is going to go fight and actually try to make it happen. And, I'm a realist, been around politics for a while. A lot of times we want to see things happen that, quite frankly, the way things are structured right now and what's taking place, it's going to be a very heavy lift. But I think people want to see the bold colors that Reagan talked about. So those choices where somebody realizes, here's somebody that actually has a bold vision for America that actually has, that will give us hope and actually is going to go out and fight for it, not give lip service to it and, say things on the campaign trail and then get into office and do exactly the opposite. And I think people are getting very tired of that. But I will say this, having had a dad that was in the U.S. House, sometimes being authentic can be can hurt you in the end. Because
right.
if you want to be honest with the voters, you want to tell them exactly what's going on. Sometimes voters don't want to hear that.
Well, that's what I was going to get to, and that was in my next question. Do we vote today for perception, or do we vote today for reality? Reality gets kind of nasty sometimes.
Yeah,
perception's a lot rosier.
We don't want to see. We don't really want to understand the sausage factory.
Right.
We would like to have fields of flowers, and I do think that a lot of the American people are not paying attention, and perception is reality for them,
right?
And they feel comfortable there. So when people are talking about being authentic, I think there has to be a happy medium of being very honest about who you are, what you stand for, what you're going to be able to do when you get elected. But at the same time, here's the thing that's the most important thing, Gary, in running for office, that I always tell people as we identify and train them. Of course, we focus mainly state and local with American majority. But
right.
Before people are going to vote for you, they actually have to like you. And if they don't like you as a person, they're not going to listen to what you have to say, and they're not going to vote for you. And I think some of the stuff that worries me sometimes with some of the more conservative elected officials is the perception and the way they come off. I know what they're trying to say, but they come off as very angry and strident.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the likability factor is diminished.
Likability is like the first thing out of the gate, but it should not be the first thing out of the gate and then a period behind it. It should be the introductory statement and then coming down and saying, now, what other things do we have to line up underneath it? How about truth and fact and all those kind of things?
I put it this way, Gary, when we're training, it's heart and head and hands. The human being is a very emotional creature.
Right.
We have to appeal to people's hearts. We have to get them excited. We have to get them to like somebody. But once you've got people to say, I like somebody, you actually have to be able to appeal to the head and actually have statistics and facts and a rational argument. Once people have decided, you know what, my heart, I like them. Now the head, yep, I get the statistics. And then if you can persuade the heart and the head, the hands will go into action. And that's something I just don't know if we've really been able to get to, with conservative and Republican candidates of appeal to the heart, have the statistics to back up your arguments. And if we can do that, we're going to get a lot more hands working on our behalf to actually see us win politically and get the right policy implemented.
We're talking to Ned Ryun, CEO of Voter Gravity, the founder of American Majority. I had a conversation on Wednesday with our governor, Tom Corbett, who, of course, is running, who's losing pretty badly right now. Yeah. And one of the things that he said in the beginning was that, we're having a tough time getting our message out. He said, starting to get out there now. We're starting to make some gains coming back and so forth. And I said something the other day. I was talking to people at his press office, and we had a conversation. And they said, it got around to, what do you think? And I said, I think he's a terrible politician and probably a pretty good guy at getting things done. But the stuff he's getting done is not necessarily things that people are going to have to like. And so you better find a way in public relations to get that out there and get your message out. And I hear so many people. Pat Toomey told me one day on the show, we're not getting our message out to mainstream media and all that. And I said to him, that's not good enough. You have ways to get the message out there. You have ways that are probably much better, but you're not tapping on those right now. And I think that could be said for Republicans at large, because Democrats seem to be able to get their message out. And if you understand the score of the game going in, then you better find another way to win the game.
The thing that frustrates me, Gary, is when people, the media is not, is attacking us. It's not carrying a message.
Yeah.
We're in the 21st century, people. There are so many other means by which you can have direct communication with voters, whether it's social media and Facebook and Twitter, building out robust communication channels that it's, person to person. It drives me nuts. I get it. I understand the frustration, but it's like, come on. We have the ability and the means if you will take the effort. And this is part of the problem, Gary, to really develop those, peer-to-peer, individual to individual channels. Yeah, it's a heavy lift. It's hard. But you know what? It's gold. It's valuable because you don't have to worry about the media at that point. They can say whatever they want to. If you're having direct conversations with the voters with no middleman, and if we have compelling ideas, which I think we do, we need to, obviously talk about how we're appealing to people's hearts and heads. We can win. This is don't sit there and have a pity party. This is the other thing we tell people at our trainings is, listen, nobody's coming to save you. There's not some, cavalry coming over the hill. You have to figure out how you're going to build your own channels of communications, how you're going to build your own system, your own infrastructure, so that you can be successful regardless of what anybody else does. And I think that's one of the things that I would hope more and more people, instead of looking at the circumstances around them, would say, how do I look at myself and what I can do to make this thing happen?
Ned, there was a time in the 20th century, I think, when we all sat in our front porches and gabbed with our neighbors and we figured things out together. And there was a time where, we met people in the grocery store, at the family reunion, at the picnic during the summer, at the pool, the baseball game, wherever it might be. But today, and we talk about all the various technological means in the country, we tend to be very short-term in terms of our what we're looking at, our video bites, our sound bites, our cell phones, and all of those things. Have they replaced the person-to-person communication we once had? And so it becomes kind of a double-edged sword. It's a great way of communicating, except we buy into listening or watching those things in a real quick hit, as opposed to sitting down and figuring it out in a little bit more of a conversation with friends and people instead of them. And instead what we get is people carrying around, the talking points that they really don't understand.
I would say yes and no. I mean, one of the arguments I make, even with gravity and the technology we're doing, is technology is the means to an end to get more meaningful human interaction, to have those live conversations, to have face-to-face conversations with people where they're at. So I would say there's that aspect of it, that the technology can streamline the process by which we have more meaningful conversations. At the same time, we've shallowed out those conversations because of what we've done with technology and who we are as a people in the 21st century, that, we might be having more conversations with more people, but the depths of those conversations are maybe not what they used to be, and maybe it's just a sign of the times and where we're at as a country and history. But, one of the things I was going to say is, going back to this authentic conversation,
right.
One of the most important things about being authentic is and likable is, do people trust you?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things right now that I don't think Republicans even fully realize, is that a lot of people are having a real tough time trusting them. They say one thing, they talk a big game, and then when push comes to shove, and we know who people truly are by how they vote,
they don't show up.
But how they vote. I think the trust factor is something that Republicans are really going to have to work on over the next couple of years if they want to take the White House back. If they want to make some real progress. It's not attempting to be authentic. It's actually just gaining trust of the American people, and I think that's a far bigger issue than people really want to discuss.
You talk about people being messengers. Yesterday, Nancy Pelosi at her weekly minority leaders press briefing said that her party's message is not resonating with the electorate right now. She told a room full of reporters, "We need you to be the messenger." She told the reporters that. And so just kind of a reminder, you're out there working for us. We're going to come back and get more into what about generational stuff? How big is that right now? Yep. One generation heading out, new generations coming in. We're going to ask Ned Ryun. He is the founder of the American Majority and also CEO of Voter Gravity, and he'll return with us here on the Gary Sutton Show on News Radio 910 WSBA. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show with Ned Ryun, founder of American Majority and also CEO of Voter Gravity. And he is a guy who gets people getting down to the grassroots around the country, taking care of the local kinds of elections, getting people involved, and he's been very, very successful at that. I wanted to ask you a question here. Are we dumb as an electorate? How's that for an easy one, Ned?
I was going to say, I feel like that's a loaded question, Gary.
No, I'd never do that. You know me.
Are we dumb as an electorate? Mm-hmm. Sadly, I would say we are a very low information, easily persuaded by surface level issues electorate. How's that?
The reason I ask you that, and that's a very good answer, as I said, we're getting caught. Republicans, for example, and I even think Democrats now, to a degree, have gotten bored with the conversation. They get caught up in the cliche and the doublespeak game that seems to be so prevalent now. And I often have suggested that we get the invisible fence dog collars for those people, and every time they say a cliche or every time they give us some doublespeak, and the electricity gets sent in larger and larger doses, and maybe that would be part of being a congressman or a senator and a president. And the cliche and doublespeak game isn't feeding the bulldog anymore. A lot of people are left wanting an awful lot, maybe more so than we used to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, again, it goes back to, I mean, people want to hear something real. It's this weird, it's this weird balance between having people that are, and they really are, the most electorate is low information voters, but at the same time, I think they're getting to the point of watching this game of politics going, we don't believe, and I think part of the low information and actually apathetic, low involvement of the American voter is because I do think part of it is they watch this game in D.C. and
yes.
various state capitals and go, I don't believe anything any of those guys, Republican or Democrat, are actually saying. And
we're going to put America back to work. We're going to get people into the middle class. And, all this kind of stuff. And I said, I don't remember when my mom and dad ever said, son, we want you to crawl into the middle class and you'll be happy the rest of your life. No one ever said that. I'm sure your dad ran, one of the first sub 4-minute miles. He was a great miler. I'm sure he said, you know what? If I run just around 4 minutes, that'll be okay. Gee, that's where I want to be, right there in mediocre land for the rest of my life.
Right. No, I mean, this is something where I think conservatives and Republicans have a chance if they can have a compelling message of why America is great and how we're going to give every American, regardless of race or demographic, the best opportunity to succeed and become all that they can be.
So why can't they put that message out there? What's the deficiency there?
I don't know. Actually, I've had this conversation with people about, and I'm very clear about the fact that I very much stick to nuts and bolts. I'm not going to sit there and come up with a overarching message,
right.
But surely we could come up with, this is the American dream and this is how we're going to achieve it. We're going to realize that we need light touch government, that we've got to reduce regulation to allow more small businesses to come into the marketplace. We've got to foster a spirit of entrepreneurism. We've got to make sure that we leave more life decisions to the individual and dictating to them. It's just, sure, and then we can spell, again, it's the whole appealing to the heart and then come in and say, the real solution to healthcare is not exactly having a one-size-fits-all single-payer system.
Right.
It's actually selling insurance across state lines. It's tort reform, and let's throw in health savings accounts. If we do those three things, we're going to get people a better product for a lot less and actually solve some of the healthcare issues.
I worried today that we've bought into this theory of dependency on the government, and we're buying some of the message, as opposed to the government saying to us, and maybe this will be the message the Republicans put out there, here's how you being independent makes America more authentic. Here's when you have more of your own money, you make better decisions than the government does with your money. But they have to make that kind of argument, statement out there. Everybody's got to be into that, and they don't do that enough. We kind of unwillingly or maybe unwittingly get involved in, again, fostering this idea that dependency is better, and the government, at the end of the day, we kind of succumb to it, Republicans, know more than you do.
I think there's two things that are starting to be lost with the American people, especially younger generations. And one of the things that is troubling to me is this whole concept of private property.
Yeah.
Republics, throughout the ages have been robust when the idea of private property, and it's not just property, it's choices, it's the thoughts, it's all this idea of private property has really been undercut, has not been fostered, has not been appreciated or protected as it should have been. But the thing, that's a whole longer, more philosophical conversation. But the thing that worries me about the younger generations, Gary, is the fact that there is a lot of this dependency, a lot of this, I don't want to take risks. I want to know that I will have a basic comfort zone that I can always fall back on.
Yep.
And that, to me, is deeply troubling because I don't think they have understood or realized if somebody's providing that basic comfort zone, they can also either A, take it away, or B, start dictating to you what else you should be doing.
It is a bargain with the devil. Final question for you, Ned. I know your time's short and mine. I could go with you all day. But anyway, generational. You just mentioned about you got the 18 to 35-year-old millennials. First thing they saw when they stepped out in here, a lot of them, was the recession. And that's what they see of America. You've got an older generation kind of heading for the doors in terms of retirement who are saying, well, okay, it'll get better. We've seen this kind of thing come and go, and yet a lot of them are scared. And so you're trying to communicate with a lot of different people in this country right now who are at different places in their life. And, of course, with the baby boomers being such a large group, they don't understand a lot of what's coming at them right now.
No, they don't. And they have been ill-served by the public school system to really have a grasp and understanding what's taking place and why it's taking place, and understanding there were some very bad decisions that have been made along the way to get us to this point, both by Republicans and Democrats.
Absolutely.
To be honest. But again, that's not a longer conversation, Gary, but this younger generation is starting to cause me some real angst because of their lack of foundation in their worldview, their thinking, their morals and ethics. I mean, there's a lot of things, and I'm only 41, so I'm not old. Okay, I don't want to even give that people that thought, but the younger generation is starting to worry me if they're going to have the right approach towards the view and role of government, how they're going to respond, understanding why things are taking place. So I guess I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little concerned about how they're taking this.
One other thing I think we get concerned about too is the fact that we don't all have the same information in front of us so we can look at it and say, okay, there's the information. Now, we may have different ways about going about fixing it, but there's the information. I was listening last night to an argument. I happened to be listening to O'Reilly, which I don't often do, but I was listening last night, and this guy comes on and says, well, the number of Mexicans that are crossing the border right now is 0. And I'm screaming at the radio, call them on it. And everybody there goes, what? The guy says 0. You can look at the facts and figures, it's 0. And I'm thinking, Harry Reid said a couple weeks ago before the Senate, we don't have a security problem on the border, and yet we're watching hundreds and thousands of people coming across the fences and walking in and turning themselves in. I'm saying ridiculousness should not be allowed to share the same stage with reasonableness in terms of talking about an issue and finding a solution.
Right. No, I mean, even though I said earlier the media, we don't need to. Let's not lose sleep over them. They are doing a massive disservice by not at least being, realistic, objective about some of the stuff and letting, reporting the facts and then let people decide.
Right.
To semi-steal Fox News' slogan. I just, an uneducated people will eventually cease to be free.
Yeah.
And it's not just the information they're getting day to day, that's part of it, but how they're being educated in school. But eventually, if we diminish our level of knowledge of how to be free, what's actually going on in the world, how we're supposed to respond to it, the prospects of freedom are severely diminished.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Ned. To be continued.
I appreciate this.
Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll do it again very soon. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Have a great weekend. Take care.
You too.
Ned Ryun, founder of the American Majority, also CEO of Voter Gravity, giving you a very gravity-based look at where we are right now in the electorate in this country. When we come back, Jeff Manassa will join us on an interesting subject. Driver's licenses for illegal immigrants start in Colorado today. Really? So we have driver's licenses or anything, documents for those people who are illegal? And we'll take your calls as well, starting at 11:42 this morning here on the Gary Sutton Show on News Radio 910 WSBA.